Sairam students, welcome back to another literature class. Today's class is a continuation of our last class, and if you remember, we had begun with the poem Hide and Seek written by Vernon Scannell. This is part 2 of our poem. In our last video, I gave you line by line explanation of the poem, and I also mentioned that this poem leaves a message which I will be discussing with you in today's class. So let's get started, students. Before that, a reminder to all of you to quickly go and get your book and pen. To begin with, we have the value points today. I'll be reading out the value points for you all, which will help you to recollect what we did in our last class. The poem starts with a child who confidently challenges his friends to find him, as he is sure that no one in his hide and seek group would be able to find him. You remember where he was hiding? He was hiding in a tool shed. So he very confidently challenges his friends and tells him that, come and look out for me. And where he is hiding? In a tool shed. Now, how is the tool shed? It is dark. Okay, no lights. And it has a salty smell. The poet tells the boy that he should curl himself so that his feet are not visible, and he hides behind the sack of sand. So if you see the picture over here, can you see how he's sitting? Okay, he's hiding behind the sack of sand, and see how he has pulled his leg so that his feet are not visible. Clear? Further, the poet cautions him that if he does start shouting again, he would risk drawing attention to his hideout. Now he understands that his friends are not able to search him. Okay, so he wants to call out again, but then the poet cautions him, no, don't call them. Why? Because they'll come to know where he is hiding. Another problem is the cold floor, but then children who would be searching him out would look near the bushes, and so the poet advises the boy to be careful not to sneeze. Okay, there are bushes around the tool shed. Okay, and the floor is also cold, the floor of the tool shed. So the poet cautions him, don't sneeze. I know the tool shed, the floor is very cold, but don't sneeze. Why? Because your friends will be nearby. They are searching for you in the bushes around. So don't sneeze. Finally, the seekers come, and the boy does hear the mumble and stumble. He hears some footsteps. He hears some laugh. Okay, he hears some discussion, but then for a very brief period of time, again those disappear. After listening to a series of quick commands, the boy holds his breath, shuts his eyes, and hopes that they would not find him. So when this discussion is going on, when he hears the footsteps, when he hears the mumble, okay, when he hears the laughter, he realizes that his friends are very close. So what does he do? He holds his breath. He shuts his eyes so that his friends are not able to find him. Soon the voices fade as the children move away. His friends are not able to find him, and they slowly move away from that place. Finally, after a long time, the boy decides to come out. See, he was waiting over there for a very long period of time. But then he finally decides to come out. Now, why was he waiting inside for a longer duration of time? Because he wanted to be a winner. Okay, he wanted to win that particular game. That's the reason he was bearing, everything that happened inside. The smell, the darkness. Okay, he was cramped in a very small space. But why did he accept all these things? Because he wanted to emerge as a winner. However, he finds the garden empty and all quiet. Now, after waiting for a very long period, he decides to come out. And after coming out, what does he see? He sees the garden is empty. Okay, the garden is quiet. All the children have gone home without him. So the children with whom he was playing, they have gone home without even telling him, because they were searching for him. They couldn't find him, and he was hiding, thinking that he's going to emerge as a winner. He did, but then his friends were not around to see him win. The poet now asks him where his friends are. So there's a question towards the end. You are here, but where are the ones who were searching for you? Where have they gone? Thus the poet ends on a note of mystery about the boy and his false notion of being a winner. I hope, students, the revision of the poem is very clear to all of you. Let us see what important messages the poem leaves for us. First, hide and seek has deep and important messages hidden in the detailed description of a familiar childhood game. So which game is this? It is hide and seek, and there are very important messages that one can learn. It emphasizes the importance of recognizing and availing the opportunities which life presents one with. Okay. The poem not just about a childhood game, but it is about life. Pay attention, students. Very, very important. What is the first message that the poem leaves for us? The difficulty which the boy faces after deciding to hide in the shed are metaphorically used for the obstructions one has to deal with while walking down the road one chooses in life. See, students, in life you will have to decide something for yourself. Correct? Okay. That road that you try to walk on with the help of your parents is not going to be an easy one. There will be many obstructions that will come your way. Okay, but you have to be determined to achieve your goal. How this boy was determined? Okay, in spite of the floor being cold, in spite of the tool shed smelling, like seaside, in spite of darkness, okay, he waited there. Why? Because he wanted to achieve his goal. And what was his goal? His goal was to be a winner. Okay, so in life also, we have to decide a goal for ourselves. And when we are marching towards our goal, definitely problems are bound to come. But we have to fight against those problems and reach to our goal. But the boy's determination to win and succeed enables him to be strong enough to overcome all these difficulties. Okay, he wanted to be he wanted to win, he wanted to succeed. That's the reason he kept on bearing all these things. Also, the other boys are the competitors which one has to deal with in life. The other boys with whom he was playing, they were his competitors. Okay, and like this, life also will have many things planned for you. Okay, the road on which you choose to walk on will have difficulties. Okay, they will be having so many competitors. Once you step out in the outer world, you'll see so many competitors, but then you have to prove yourself. They are described as prowling, like as if they were predatory animals waiting to strike on their prey when it was unaware. Okay, so they were waiting like those predatory animals, that they wanted to pounce on the boy the moment they see the boy. Such are the problems life throws one's way, but if, like the boy, one has a predetermined aim in mind, it is not difficult to pull through despite all the problems. So, like I told you before, if you are very confident about your goal, okay, if you are determined to achieve your goal, you will be able to fight all the odds that come in your way when you are marching towards your goal. That is the first message that we learn from the poem. What's the other message? Let's see. Then another message, that of making the maximum use of any and all opportunities that life and luck blesses one with, is conveyed in the last few lines. The boy could have enjoyed the thrill of glamorous victory, which would have been ample compensation for enduring through all the frightening aspects of the tool shed. He came out and declared his presence when the seekers turned away from its doorstep. Now, what does this mean? The boy inside waited for a very long period of time. Had he come before, when the boys had just left that space, you remember the boys were very close by. The boy could hear the feet mumble, he could hear some laughter, he could hear some discussion, okay, but then the voice faded. Had he come out at that point of time, okay, he would have enjoyed his glamorous victory. Okay, but then what did he do? He waited for a longer period of time. But he procrastinated, he delayed, okay, hoping that his delay would put the other children in awe of his brilliant hiding spot and earn him more glory as the victor, only to find out that his continued absence had made him lose interest and move on, leaving him alone and disappointed. So, what happened? He procrastinated, he delayed, he waited inside for a very longer period of time. And why did he wait? Basically, he thought that, his friends must be thinking, wow, where is this boy hiding? We can't even search for him. Where is he? And then he thought maybe, at that point of time, he will come out and he will be able to enjoy in a better way. He would, he would be very happy to emerge as a winner at that point of time. But what happened when he came out? Okay, he was left all alone. There was nobody around. The garden was empty. There was silence everywhere. Okay, so why did his friends leave from that place? Because they lost interest in that game, and what happened because of that? This boy was left alone and disappointed. So what does this mean? Okay, you should grab on the opportunities whenever you get. Don't wait for another chance. Okay, whenever life gives you an opportunity, definitely you have to go and grab it at the right point of time. Clear? Let's move on to the poetic devices of this poem. To begin with, we have a rhyme scheme. Now, this poem is a free verse. What's a free verse? When there are no similar words towards the end of the lines, we cannot have the rhyme scheme. And such poems are called as free verse poem. Look over here, all of you. Look at these words. Me, side, dark, showing. Do they sound similar in any way? No, they don't. Let's move ahead. Close, cold, swing. There are no words which sound similar. In that case, what happens? The poem becomes a free verse poem. Clear, students? So this example I have given you just for the first stanza. Please go through the other stanzas and you will understand that there are no rhyming words and no rhyme scheme in the other stanzas as well. Let's move on to the next poetic device, and that is figures of speech. Look at this line. The sacks in the tool shed smell like the seaside. You have recently learned about alliteration, right? What is alliteration? When the sound of a particular alphabet is repeated, okay, that particular figures of speech is alliteration. There is a difference between alliteration and repetition. In repetition, the words are repeated. Clear? But in alliteration, the sound is repeated. In this case, the sacks, the sound of sacks, the sound of smell, okay, and seaside. Again, the sound of S is repeated for poetic effect. Next, the dark, damp smell of sand is thicker now. Again, this line is alliteration. Why? Because the sound of D, dark, damp, okay, this is repeated for poetic effect. Then again we have the sound of S, smell, sand, okay, this sound is repeated for better poetic effect. Now I have just listed 2 sentences of alliteration. You will find out few more sentences from the poem and jot them down in your book. Clear? Moving on to the next figures of speech, that is personification. What's a personification? When an inanimate object is given human quality, that is called as personification. Look at this line. The darkening garden watches. Okay, here the garden is personified. What does that mean? The garden is given the human quality or the human action of watching something. Garden happens to be an inanimate object. It is lifeless. Clear? But this garden is given the human quality of or human action of watching something. Hence, it is personification. The next sentence. The bushes hold their breath. Again, that's a personification because the bushes are personified. Here the bushes are given the human action of holding their breath. Clear? Again, bushes are inanimate. Clear? So when inanimate objects are given are given human quality, such figures of speech is called as personification. Clear? Moving on to the last part of our lesson, that is reference to context. Look at these lines, read these lines carefully. You make yourself little in the salty dark, close your eyes tight and hope your feet aren't showing. Better not risk another call, they might be close. So these are your lines, and based on these lines, we have few questions for you. Who is you here? Who is this you over here? You make yourself little. So this is the child, the boy who is hiding in the tool shed. Clear? Who are they? Who are they? They are the friends of the child who is hiding in the tool shed. Now look here. Close your eyes tight. Hope your feet aren't showing. Better not risk another call. They might be close. So who is this they? They is basically the friends of the child. Who is this child? The one who is hiding in the tool shed. What is salty dark? Salty dark is used for the atmosphere or the state of tool shed where the child is hiding. The sacks in the tool shed smelled of seaside and it was dark. Hence, salty dark. This I have explained you in part 1. So why salty dark? Because the atmosphere, okay, where the child was hiding in the tool shed, the atmosphere or the state was, it smelled like seaside, and it was dark inside. There were no lights. Hence, salty dark. Why would it be wise not to risk another call? It would be wiser not to risk another call, as the children looking for the child hidden in the tool shed might be very close. So here the child is told that don't call. Why? Because the friends were very close. They were searching for the boy near the bushes. Hence, he says that it's not wise to risk another call. So that's it, students, for this poem. Revise the poem. Go through the poem once again. Okay. I have given you a small homework of finding out few alliteration sentences. Do finish them off. Okay. I'll catch you in the next class, and until I meet you again, you will take care of yourself. Sai Ram and bye-bye.